Godhead, of the universal story. But today I've been really captured. And Dave Sliker, you can do your Bible teaching and correct me if you need to today. But until then, I got the mic. I was reading this. It's called Near His Heart, and it's called My Real Dad. With recent passing of Apple co-founder, legendary CEO Steve Jobs, there's been inevitably a proliferation of information about his life and legacy. Surprisingly, one of the biographical details that is sometimes overlooked is that Jobs was adopted. His biological mother was an American graduate student. His father was a Syrian immigrant, but neither was able to keep Steve as their own. The first potential adoptive family changed their mind at the last minute because they wanted a daughter. And that's when Paul and Clara Jobs committed to adopting the future techno-titan. Interestingly, Jobs didn't like to speak about his biological parents because he considered Paul and Clara his real ones. I believe this is true. Adoptive parents are real parents, not only in the eyes of the state, but also in the eyes of God. How do we know this? Because Jesus was adopted. Did you know that? You didn't. You're all so quiet. Since Jesus was conceived by the Holy Spirit in the womb of a young virgin, we often neglect the importance of Joseph's decision to adopt him. Joseph planned to quietly divorce Mary, but God instructed him not to. His obedience was not only preserved their marriage, but also initiated an adoption as well. Joseph was not Jesus' biological father, but God recognized him as Jesus' real father. This is no small detail, as theologian Russell Moore writes, and perhaps most significantly, if Joseph is not really the father of Jesus, you and I are going to hell. You're all looking at me funny. Why does Moore say this? Because the Messiah must come through the lineage of David, so Jesus would not be a direct descendant if his adoption was not meaningful in the eyes of God. In the genealogy of Jesus, Joseph is Jesus' real dad, because in God's economy, adoption is a real and binding connection. If it were not, Jesus would not be the Davidic Messiah, and our faith would be in vain. Let me explain this to you as I think, and David, you can correct me later. Mary was a direct descendant of David. So she's in the lineage of David, but she's not in the royal line of David. The promise was that a man would sit on the throne of David from his lineage. It had to be a part of the royal line. So though she was the direct descendant of David, Joseph was actually the one that came in the lineage of the royal line. Therefore, apart from Joseph's adoption, he could not be the Messiah. But God counted an adoption, I think, as real as natural genealogy. Come on.
Yes, come on.
That is a stunning thought. That in the heart and eyes of God, the actual adoption of Jesus by Joseph was as binding and legal and as real as a natural genealogy. Stunning, stunning, stunning. What's even in some ways, there's a prophecy in Jeremiah 22 that Jeconiah, the last king of Israel, a curse was set upon him by the word of the Lord that none of his sons would ever bear the messianic throne. It was a curse that came on the line of Jeconiah. That means that Jesus in the line, if he became the king, would actually have a curse upon him. But listen to this. The only way that that curse would not lie is if the royal line of Jeconiah, which was Joseph, actually adopted him. So there was no blood transference, there would be no legal natural transference. Only through the adoption of Joseph, without natural lineage, could that curse be broken. Stunning thought. David, talk to me about that one later. You say, why are you bringing this up? I'm bringing it up because what we're a part of right here tonight, it's not a side issue. It says in Ephesians 1 that we were adopted from the foundation of the world. Ephesians 1:10. Does somebody know it? 9 or 10? Okay. I'll look it up in the Bible.
Truman says 1:5.
1:5. Thank you, Truman. You're a true man. Here we go. Verse 4. Just as he chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love, having predestined us to adoption as sons by Jesus Christ to himself. Before the foundation of the world, we were predestined as Jesus' sons by adoption. Adoption is not plan B. It's plan A from the foundation of the world. Come on. This is, we don't do this because there's a social problem. We do it because it is a foundational issue in the very soul and heart of God. We are an adoption community, and every one of you are adopted children. Every one of us are adopted children. That means from the beginnings of time, God saw an adopted family. And then he actually sealed it in his own son, that he ordained that an adoption would bring forth the king. Come on. Yes. And if that were enough, there comes the time, as Randy Boliner calls it, the finalization of the adoption ceremony. When you finally sign the deal, that's when the rejoicing begins. Because now, Caleb, they're yours. Rachel, that child is yours, and nobody can take him away. There's something about the finalization of the adoption that's so significant. And so for Romans 8, it says this in Romans 8, and we all groan. How does it go? We groan, eagerly awaiting our adoption. Right now we have the spirit of adoption, but there's coming a finalization. Come on. And that finalization is when that great ceremony takes place in heaven tonight. I want to say to you, from beginning